right into it. I want you to imagine something. Picture waking up one morning and discovering that the basic playbook for trillions of dollars in global trade has just been totally ripped up and rewritten. And I'm not talking about some far-off hypothetical. No, this actually happened. And it all went down in one single, absolutely chaotic week back in February 2026.
In this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the moment. It comes from an intelligence bulletin, and it really sets the stage. This wasn't some slow, gradual shift. Nope. It was a sudden, dramatic, overnight reset. The message couldn't be clearer. If your supply chain is still running on last month's assumptions, you're already behind the curve.
So you're probably asking, what on earth could cause such a massive disruption? Well, it all kicked off with what we're calling the tariff earthquake. And it was just that, a single, landmark Supreme Court decision that sent these incredible shockwaves ripping through the entire global financial system, practically overnight.
And what's just wild is the speed at which all this happened. I mean, look at this timeline. February 20th, you've got the U.S. Supreme Court basically invalidating this whole category of tariffs, the IEEPA tariffs, okay? Then, just 4 days later, poof, at midnight, they're gone. They're no longer being collected. And then, on that very same day, the president slaps on a new temporary 10% global surcharge to take their place. Think about that. An entire trade regime just completely flipped on its head in less than a week. Incredible.
And if you want to get a sense of the sheer scale of this, just look at this number. $160 billion. That's how much money we're talking about in tariffs collected under the old rules, tariffs that were just instantly invalidated by this one ruling. You can just imagine the massive headache that created, but also maybe a huge refund opportunity for thousands of companies. Okay, so here's the really crucial part. Understanding what actually changed. It's like a before and after picture for global trade. All those old, complicated, country-specific tariffs, gone. You know, things like that staggering 145% effective rate on China. And what replaced them? A new, temporary, flat 10% surcharge on everything, globally. But here's the catch. It's only valid for 150 days. And this is super important. Some other tariffs, like the Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum, they're still in place. So suddenly, everyone's got a completely new cost model to figure out, right now.
But here's the thing. This tariff earthquake didn't happen in a vacuum, you know? It slammed right into 3 other massive waves of change that were already transforming the supply chain world. So let's break down these 3 other forces, starting with the big one, technology.
Right, wave number 1, technology. We're talking specifically about autonomous trucking and AI. And listen, this stuff is not science fiction anymore. This is commercial reality, right now, and it's fundamentally changing the basic physics of how we move stuff around the planet.
And this really shows you the impact. We now have proven, validated 1,000-mile driverless routes that are running safely. But here's the number that blows my mind. A journey that takes a human driver, by law, more than 2 days to complete. An autonomous truck can now do it in about 15 hours. That's a total game changer for speed and efficiency. These things can run 24/7, and they're completely immune to things like driver shortages.
Okay, on to the second wave, and this one's kind of the opposite of the tech wave. It's regulation. So while all this cool tech is making things faster, new government rules are actually putting the squeeze on, creating some serious pressure on cost and capacity, especially for traditional human-driven trucking.
I mean, just look at this. Behind the scenes, kind of quietly, new enforcement rules are making the pool of available, eligible truck drivers smaller and smaller. This has nothing to do with market demand going up or down. It's a supply squeeze, pure and simple, and it's being caused by regulations. And the result? We're already expecting contract rates for trucking to see mid-single-digit increases in 2026.
And this regulatory wave isn't just a U.S. thing. Far from it. As of January 1st, 2026, the European Union's big new rule, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM, is officially live. So what does that mean? The bottom line is this. The carbon emissions of a product are now a real financial cost. It's a line item on the invoice for anyone importing goods like steel or aluminum into the EU. That is a fundamental shift in how you think about procurement.
All right, that brings us to the third and final wave, the market itself. And what's interesting here is that on the surface, things look, well, surprisingly calm. But as we're about to see, that calm might be really, really deceptive.
So just take a look at this data. Ocean freight rates, right? They're one of the best indicators of what's happening in global trade, and they're falling. Now, part of this is just the typical lull we see after Chinese New Year, and it's also because a lot of businesses are planning to import less in 2026, especially after the huge volumes we saw in 2025.
So that leads to the big question, right? Is this dip a sign of new stability, a new normal, or is this just the eye of the storm? All the evidence seems to point to this just being a temporary, quiet window before all the geopolitical risks and a possible rebound in demand could make these rates spike again, and spike dramatically.
So let's recap. We've got the tariff earthquake, and we've got these three huge waves all crashing together at the same time: technology, regulation, and a super deceptive market. Okay, so how in the world do you navigate all this? Let's bring it all together and look at the strategic playbook for this new reality.
This is really the most important takeaway, the action plan. Number 1, you have to reset your entire tariff and cost model, like right now. Number 2, take advantage of this temporary calm in the market to lock in your ocean contracts while the carriers are feeling weak. Number 3, get your truckload bids out there earlier than usual, before capacity tightens even more. 4, make carbon a real line item in your procurement costs because of CBAM. And finally, number 5, you've got to close that gap on AI and digital visibility.
And that last point about technology, it's not some nice-to-have feature anymore. Check out this stat from FedEx. It's actually startling. 75%, that's 3 out of 4, of B2B buyers say they are ready to switch suppliers right now, just to get a better digital experience and more visibility. That isn't a future problem, that's an immediate, right-now competitive threat.
So really, the stakes could not be any clearer. This whole 2026 reset demands a fundamental shift in strategy. It's not just one thing. It touches absolutely everything. Your costs, your contracts, your carbon footprint, your digital tools, all of it. The old assumptions are completely out the window.
And that leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. The entire playbook for global trade, the rule book we all followed, was torn up and rewritten in the span of a single week. So the question that every single business, every single person in this field needs to be asking themselves is, are we ready for what comes next?